Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome back to your side quest contact. Today we're going to be leaving the boundaries of the fantastical, the magical, the dragons and the wizards and the angry gods, and we're going to be transcending up into space, not Spelljammer or fake space, but sort of real space. When I say sort of real, I mean kind of based off of reality. We're going to be exploring Star Trek adventures. Now, before we get into that, I do want to kind of touch on something on a related note. Our Monday group has finished off the Muse of Juijon, and we're going to be transitioning into play testing something I'm going to be getting up on the DM's Guild in a little while. So that's going to be play testing. Not going to talk too much about that until it's up, and then maybe do a run through, recorded run through of it once it's up. The Tuesday night group, that's where we were doing the Frozen Heart. We had a really exciting session last night because since we finished the Frozen Heart, we had another player in that group set up a game and start running it, and then it's her first kind of real game, and it's always exciting to see someone get in there and do it for the first time, and see how their approach to it, their take to it, and it's kind of neat to be on the other end, like playing the game, and seeing it from that perspective. So we had a great time, and we're definitely doing another session because yeah, she set up a good plot, a good hook, and we're in. Now, with the Frozen Heart adventure we did on Tuesday, I ran all through it and even put up the ending. With Muse of Juijon, I'm going to hold off on. I'm not going to put up the final in scenario, and the reason is because if you want to check that out and see what that's like, all of these adventures are available up on the DM's Guild. They're only $2.99 each, and you get the whole PDF for everything you need to run that adventure. Minus the core books like DM, Player's Handbook, DM's Guide, Monster Manual. You'll still need those, but the adventure is pre-packaged for you, and the module is. So it gives you an outline of what the adventure is about, kind of breaks it down into acts, so you kind of know what each section is, the events and the play and the NPCs and what's happening in each section, along with the NPC stats, manual entry lists, maps that you can use. So yeah, that's all there. And so like if you just go get like one 299, like start with the Muse of Juijon, because that's a good starter, right? If you're getting started, you got first level characters, you spend 299, you get that adventure, and if you like it, then the next one up, Far From Home, could be a good sequel adventure, if you liked the first one. So go check those out. I'm going to put links to this once I finish this one, and yeah, let me know what you think. All right, so back to our exploration series. Now we're going to talk about Star Trek adventures, and we're going to kind of follow the same path we've been, following since we've been doing this. We're going to go about where it is, how we use it, what it's about, and kind of just talk our way through that. Now, for Star Trek adventures, now for a little background is I grew up in the Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager phase, so eras, right? So those were my formative Star Trek exposure. Later, in adult life, what do we got? We had the Enterprise series, and I think that had some good potential. I wish they would have pushed a little more instead of just kind of giving up on it. All of the big, even the Next Generation, like today. The Next Generation is considered like classic and legendary, but back in the day, like during season one, season two, once we got into season three, it had a good footing. But season one and two were kind of shaky, right? Just like anything starting off. I mean, we look back on it now and think, yes, that's classic, that's awesome. But back then, we didn't know, are we going to get a season two? Are we going to get a season three? And then by the time they hit season three, Next Generation found a really good foundation, and they just kind of plunged forward, and it was an excellent series. Same thing with Deep Space Nine. First couple seasons, they're finding their footing. It's a little weird because it's a new crew. You're trying to get used to them and invested in them. But by season three, yeah, they found their footing, and Deep Space Nine turned into a really good show. Same thing with Voyager, and I wish they would have allowed that for Enterprise when it came out. Now, Discovery, I got through the second season. I didn't really get into the first season because it's just like a storyline so far in the future, just really didn't appeal to me too much. Got through the first season of Picard. Didn't go through the second one honestly because I want to see I want to remember Picard as I remember Picard, um, and um, and for what was the other one? Strange New Worlds. Went through the first season of that, and I kind of liked that because it started taking us back to more classic themes for Trek, right? And the classic Enterprise, the original Enterprise, original James Kirk. I just and the only reason I haven't got into the further seasons of these is just because there's so much to do and so much to watch now. It's kind of hard to decide what it is I want to do and what it is I want to watch. So, but from the past, Star Trek has been a very big part of my life. It's been especially through that era, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and even the movies, right? The motion picture, Wrath of Khan, Search for Spock, and so on. So this role playing game is that theme, right? That theme, exploration, discovery, the unknown, paired with fantastic sci-fi technology. Now, I don't want to say fantastic as as relating it to a fantasy setting, but just that it's amazing, right? You see the things they can do, the distances they can travel, the things their technology can do and create, and also how that technology can destroy. So the setting for Star Trek is in our galaxy, right? The Milky Way galaxy, as defined by the Star Trek writers throughout the various shows and movies and other cinema, or I'm sorry, other media. So it's that galaxy, Milky Way galaxy, Earth, standard Earth, and the planets around it. Now, obviously though, they've invented some worlds and invented some races so that the humans had something to interact with, but by and large they try to keep it to what Earth really is. Even the history of the Star Trek universe matches like our history up until like I think it's like 1996. I think is when that's when like Khan shipped out on his first voyage on the Botany Bay, I believe it was 1996. But you got to keep that in perspective, right? This was thinking back in the 60s, like what's the future going to be like? But you're back in the 60s thinking of that. And they thought by the late 90s we'd be in space. Sorry to disappoint you, 60s friends, but we weren't that deep into space. I mean, we were in space, just not that deep. So the setting is basically familiar and in what I like to call quasi-realistic. So it's the galaxy, and let's take a quick look at some things here. And because Star Trek, like any story, sci-fi story, was written by humans, Earth is kind of like the central the focal point of the story, right? You have Earth and a number of other planets around Earth that got together and formed this United Federation of Planets in responses to various threats that they were all encountering. And as this federation is expanding, they bump against other powers that are out in the galaxy: Cardassians, Klingons, Romulans, the traditional antagonists of Star Trek stories. Oh, sorry, wrong way. Yeah, so we see Cardassia here. Where's the rest of it? Let me zoom out some. Oh, that's not zooming. There's, okay. I'm thinking this represents the Alpha Quadrant, and whereas the Beta Quadrant we would see it bumping up against the Klingon Empire and the Romulan Empire. Now, this particular set of rules, this core rule book, is kind of geared towards a player party who are members of Starfleet and serve on a Starfleet ship. You don't have to do that. You can kind of set it up. I mean, you could use these rules to run, kind of a mixed bag. Like maybe they're independent ships. Merchants are a thing, right? You gotta, worlds produce goods. Those goods got to move from planet A to planet B. So you need interstellar merchants, interstellar ships. There could also be mercenaries on the fringes, on the edges of the border, and there's a lot of variety, right? You can even play Klingons, Romulans, Cardassians, or a party that is kind of majority of that. The rules in this book, though, are more geared towards the Starfleet, but there are other books, and this is even adaptable to running something other if you wanted to. So we got like a little history here of the Federation, because that's what this book is mainly about. Little talking about Starfleet. Let's see, basic operations chapter. This kind of talks about how the game is run. Things you do, dice you roll, how you define an action, and I'm gonna be honest. I kind of boiled out a lot of it, as far as a lot of the minutia, and because I don't want combat to be just like super crunchy, so like number crunchy. So I found a way to kind of keep to what the rules were wanting, but just make it a little more efficient. We'll talk a little bit about that more. But the big thing is, big two concepts were called momentum and threat. And we'll kind of get into that here in a little bit. Okay, so reporting for duty. Okay, so this is making the characters, making your characters. Now, one of the interesting things about this, it encourages, and if you're playing a standard Starfleet game, this is a good idea, is you actually have two sets of characters. The way I set up my game is the player characters were the department heads of their starship. We chose to go the original series era, so like the original Enterprise, the days of Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, and all that. And I let them pick. Okay, well, you're going to be the department managers on that ship. One of you's head of security. One of you's head of medical, head of engineering, head of science, and they picked and made their characters accordingly. So those were their we called them the shipboard characters. Now another part about Star Trek is having like an away team, beaming down to planets, investigating, doing things on planet side, or beaming to a star base, or beaming to another ship, transporting, and so you have these away teams. So these were lower level characters who were designed to be able to beam down to locations to have those adventures, because your high ranking senior officers, despite what they show on the series and the shows, I don't think they're sending the top department heads down into potentially hostile territory. They're going to send the not so high ranking people. Yeah, we created two sets of characters, and those away team characters were lieutenant rank. So we had lieutenant commanders up in the ship, and then lieutenant level characters down or on away team type missions. Let's see here. So, I'm not going to dive too much into like the actual character creation, but a few things in here I want to show you that I think were cool. Yeah, you can see alien encounters. What's that? Oh wow, that looks fun. Stellar phenomenon. Yeah, all kinds of stuff in here you can think about and put together. Oh, Klingons. Yeah, and just like in the original series, we had the Klingons as our main antagonists. We had set it after the end of that big Klingon war. So there's a tenuous peace, a tenuous treaty. But obviously Klingons aren't happy about that. They're wanting to fight and conquer, but I guess they were fought into a situation where they had to negotiate peace. Social combat, types of attack. All right, we're going to talk about that here in a minute. And all kinds of neat gear and technology. Again, you're going to see Starfleet themed stuff here. Phasers. Oh, there's a Batleth, so you can have some Klingon. Oh, and another neat thing is in this with this rule book, it allows you to decide which era you want to play with. I mentioned earlier that we were going with the original series era, but it lets you pick an era up to and beyond beyond the next generation up into like quote unquote modern day. So you can play Enterprise era, Next Generation era, Original Series era, and the only really thing that impacts that game-wise is the technology available, the types of ships available, the types of weapons available, and and the speed of those ships. Like an old style Constitution class starship is not going to be as fast as a up to date Galaxy class or a Sovereign class. And I know the Galaxy isn't up to date but when I was watching Star Trek, that was the ship of the top line of the ship was the Galaxy class. So it lets you kind of choose what era you want to play in. And then obviously, a big draw to Star Trek is, space and ships, big ships and space battles. And it had a pretty decent space combat system. This was something that I did modify some, not really some. I kind of moved a lot of the rules out of the way. Yeah, we got a warp drive speed, so you know when you can see what how fast your ship moves. You can then calculate how long it's going to take to get to where it needs to go. Now, like let's go back to the original series Constitution class. I think its top speed was about warp 5, right? So that means yeah, that's still 214 times the speed of light, right? That's insane. Take about 9 days to get to a nearest by star system. You want to move across the sector, it's going to take you about a month. And as we get down here, they classify warp 10 as just infinite speed. In other words, there is no speed, you just appear where you want to appear. Yeah, it is. And then warp 9, and then above, they're just going to continue adding infinite decimal points so they don't actually hit the number 10. But now the Galaxy class Enterprise from the next generation, it could push 9.2 in emergencies and such. And look at the difference between that and what the Constitution could do. So to get to a nearby star system, the old Constitution would take 9 days, whereas the Galaxy from the next generation era would only take a day. Take a month for the old the old Constitution to get across the sector, whereas 4 to 5 days for the Galaxy class, and then it just keeps getting exponentially faster. So we got speed, warp speed. I always thought that was interesting, like trying to watching the show as a kid, trying to understand, or because I know it's fictional technology, but I still wanted to understand how they envisioned it working. Like I know it wasn't something that really worked, but just how do they envision it working? Had fun times thinking about that. Okay, starships. Yeah, starships. Yeah, because this is a good section here. Kind of goes over the systems, what the stuff means. That's a good image. Yep. No one has seat belts. Panels explode everywhere. That's always kind of a running joke, right? Why aren't they wearing seat belts? And these panels explode all the time. Departments. Okay, what was this? How good the department is, because the ship has its own character sheet as well. And you choose like when I say you, I mean the players choose like the kind of like the chassis of the ship, like what kind of ship it is, and then the add-ons, what the mission profile of the ship is. Because different ships, like a Constitution class, might be profiled to do a rescue mission, or it might be geared, profiled, and equipped to do an exploration mission. So then these ships can be kind of their compartments can be kind of interchanged depending on the needs of the mission. So we got all these. Okay, captain. Okay, got a scale. Okay, so as far as like a scale of 1 is just your standard shuttlecraft, little one person fighters, up to a number 7 being like a Derridex class warbird. That's the big Romulan ship, as well as a Borg sphere. Now notice Constitution class, back in the original days of the Enterprise, that was down to four. I mean, it was the ship of the time, the top ship of the time, but times change, times progress. So we get to see the scale, the resistance, shields, actions aboard ship, ship actions, and talked a little bit about how we did a ship combat. And the different act type, these are the different types of actions that the different players from their stations can do. You can assign traits to the crew based off their experience, their quality. Warp core imminent. That's never a good thing when the warp core breach is imminent. Time to abandon ship. Okay, so it set up a quick scene as far as how we did a fight. Now with these rules, it tells us that the player group, the players ship, they win initiative, if they should, right? Unless, and what I mean is unless they're being surprised or there's some sort of environmental story or some other factor that makes them the surprised party. But because these ships got really advanced sensors, right? It's really hard for a ship to be surprised. So an example would be, a ship that is cloaked, has a cloaking device. It decloaks nearby and fires, right? So that the enemy ship would then have initiative. Otherwise, it grants initiative to the player ship in most other situations. Now, with a player group who's running this, I was thinking about this earlier. The you, players don't like to be under another player as far as rank. They don't want to have another player outrank them, then have to obey the orders of that player. Likewise, they don't want an NPC ordering them around, right? Like a captain. So the captain we had was an NPC, but our standard rule was that the players are going to decide the course of the story, right? You all decide, make the decisions, and as long as it's inside of the scope of the mission and what we're trying to do, then we're going to pretend that that's what the captain is ordering you to do. So let's say the players say we want to go to this planet and we want to investigate this situation. Well, then that's kind of what the captain is ordering the players to do, quote unquote. Again, keep in as long as the players what they're wanting to do is in line with the mission and what the ship's doing. So all right, so let's say the ship encounters another ship and combat ensues, right? So for the beginning of the round, I had the captain make a roll. Now with this game, you're rolling multiple d20s. You're not adding them together, but you're looking for successes. Like you got to roll a certain number or higher to get a success. So let's say you roll a group of three d20s. 0 to 1, 2, or 3 of them could be successes. So you could have 0 to 3 successes, depending on how the roll went. So the captain in the beginning, I made a quick NPC roll just like as a command roll. How well is the captain prepared? And then I took those successes and I gave them to the players. I say, okay, so now you all decide how you are, doing this round. So perhaps the pilot officer could be engaging in a maneuver, trying to get the ship closer, or maybe there's a thing they call attack vector, where you're trying to engage the ship to give your weapons officer maximum advantage on his or her attack. So usually the order kind of went: the pilot would make a maneuver and make a roll, and any of that successes and the results of that roll added to the weapons officer and his or her roll, and then we would resolve any weapons attacks. Now, with those rolls. Now, in the rules, there's a lot more charts on how to do momentum, how to do threat, and that's what momentum is. Is like when you're able to get extra dice to add to your roll, we call that momentum. We also call threat when your enemy gets extra dice to add to their rolls. Maybe an action you do provokes threat in them. So now when it's their turn, they're going to get extra dice. And likewise, maybe something they do provokes threat in you, so then you get extra dice on your next round of rolls and resolutions. And then when ships get injured, yeah, you got shields, that are a factor. You have hit points, hull points, that you don't want the ship to lose. And for player character ships, we have a like damage type of stuff, right? Specific damage, like depending how bad the damage rolled, you might have a hull breach or a system goes offline. Now for NPC ships with a lot of there are like more than one NPC ships. I didn't bother with that. Like once the shields and the hull were down, the ship explodes, right? We're done. And you see that in the show, right? Because like it's like in the shows and the movies, you see how easy the enemy ships go down, but that hero ship, that Enterprise, that Deep Space Nine or Voyager, it can just keep getting hit and hit and hit, and they can reroute and redo this and engage that, and they can just keep going. But the NPC ships on the screen, you see them exploding all over the place. So weapons, gear. Okay, we talked about that. Let's see. Starship combat. Let's take a quick peruse through here. Kind of talks about. Oh, another of the player characters on ship could be the engineer, and that person would usually go at the end of the round, right? So after if there were damaged, if the shields were damaged, if the ship itself had damage, the engineer could be the one to make his or her rolls to help mitigate and repair some of that damage, like regenerate shields, damage control. Those are actions. Cover concealment. Cloaking of breaches. Yeah, anytime like torpedoes are good with breaches because that means like they've gone into the ship and exploded. They didn't just like hit it on the outside and exploded. They like breached it and did like a lot more damage. So, oh, we've been through here. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, see, so like yeah, something like that, right? And if assume like this galaxy here was the player character ship, we got three NPC Romulans, we got one PC ally. This what is this? The Saber class, Akira class. I think this is Akira. And yeah, I'm not gonna, if when the player ship requires it, yeah, we're gonna make some damage rolls. What specifically is damage? Like, is your weapon offline? Is your core? What's happening? Because that gives the players a chance to react and do stuff about it. But with these other ships, once their shields are down, they reach zero health points, they just explode. I like that image. That's cool. All right, what else here? Oh, these are okay. This is the ship section. Yep. There's the Defiant and the Jem'Hadar. Yep. Oh wow, that's cool. Okay, yeah, Excelsior class. Yeah, these are good. Kind of tells you what here's the systems, here's the departments, and this would be like the ship's character sheet. And missions, again, that depends on. Oh, here we go, Klingons. Yeah. That depends on what kind of game you're going to play. If it's Starfleet, then your missions are going to be around like Starfleet missions: rescue, exploration, research, maybe military engagement. Starfleet doesn't like to get into military engagements unless absolutely necessary, but yeah, sometimes that becomes absolutely necessary. Rescue, you can rescuing derelict ships who have system failures, rescuing people off a planet who are about to undergo a severe catastrophe. The Romulans, they're kind of my favorite. I just like I like their whole style. I think we covered a good bit here. This is like a original series era. You can see those old style uniforms. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I remember that episode, the Dyson sphere. They almost got trapped inside this giant sphere. Oh, that was the one with Scotty. When Scotty came, they found like Scotty from the original series buffered inside a transporter buffer, and he had set it up so that it would kind of continually feed itself power, so that his pattern would remain stable inside the buffer, hoping that one day maybe someone comes and discovers it, and then and then the crew of the original of the the Enterprise did, and they re-beamed him back in, so he's been stashed in that transporter buffer kind of insubstantially for I think it was a number of decades. Oh, we got a little monster section here. Yeah, wouldn't be sci-fi without some monsters lurking about. Oh yeah, those slugs. Oh yeah, I remember those. Neural parasites. The crystalline entity. Yep, that was from the Next Generation. They had some good episodes about that, especially when they were trying to hunt it down. Picard and the scientist they were working to hunt it down with had some issues with each other. Okay, there's the Enterprise. Yeah. And we got there's an adventure down here as well. The rescue was this rescue of Xerxes 4. So all in all, this was a good game. Now it didn't really last long because a lot of it kind of got sort of repetitive. But looking back on it, I would run it again. I would try to learn from the previous run through, learn how to make it a little more let's see, I guess fresh for each session, because the sessions started to follow a very similar grindy type of flow. Um, but it was still we had a good time. We had some really cool scenes, good role playing scenes, and Star Trek is it's great. Star Trek, right? So you really can't go too wrong. It's at least worth a try. And I think what I would do next is I wouldn't do a standard Starfleet crew. I think I would do, okay, what do you want to play? Like, I mean, y'all need to be together because it's a galaxy, right? And we want a player group, so we got to keep them together. So are you in Starfleet, or maybe are you a mercenary, independent merchants? You work for the Klingons, another political group. I would kind of let the players decide. All right, friends. Well, hey, thanks for hanging out and walking through the final frontier with me, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And I think next time we're gonna go the next session, or not next session, the next video we do for this will be, I think, Alien. Yeah, we're gonna talk through and explore Alien. All right. Well, until then, I hope y'all have a great day. Take care. Thanks for hanging out.